Hello, my name is Kyle Leverett, and this is the Strategic Individual Capstone Project presentation for Cameco Corporation, Robert Morris University, MBAD 690, Strategic Knowledge Integration. Now, before I get into the depth of details of my report, I want to start off with an executive summary. Cameco Corporation is a major uranium production company that's mainly focused in Canada, but is also a global player in a rapidly evolving nuclear market. The company provides a major amount of services throughout the nuclear fuel cycle, but has a couple key gaps in both enrichment services and SMR fueling capabilities. Through the results of a detailed external and internal analysis, I propose two specific recommendations to the company. One, in the near term, form a strategic alliance with a company like Cameco to onboard enrichment services as part of their value chain. And in the long term, invest in TRISO fuel fabrication capabilities and continue to fund laser diffusion enrichment. Now, getting back into the majority of this report, we'll start with the history and background of the company. Cameco Corporation was founded between a merger with two Crown corporations in Canada in 1988. Crown corporations are government companies, and the company itself has become more of a standard publicly traded corporation over time. The company owns and operates key top-tier uranium assets in Canada via Cigar Lake, McArthur River, and Key Lake, all of which yielding some of the highest quality uranium ore on the planet. The company also owns a minority stake in Westinghouse Electric Company that it executed on recently, which has expanded its footprint in the nuclear fuel cycle. What do I mean by the nuclear fuel cycle? The nuclear fuel cycle is 7 key steps from uranium production all the way to consumption in reactors and final storage. For the purposes of this company, we're going to focus on the first 5 steps: mining, refining, conversion services, enrichment, and eventual fuel fabrication. And as you can see from this diagram, Cameco has capabilities in 4 of the 5 steps at the front end of the nuclear fuel cycle. The one key gap that exists here is enrichment capability. The company is currently developing technology through global laser enrichment, but does not have the immediate capability to fabricate fuel for light water reactors. The company does have a complete value chain for CANDU reactors because they do not require enrichment services. The industry itself is seeing major growth, and this is really from the push for clean, firm energy. Nuclear power is unique in that it is the only widely deployable, dispatchable form of carbon-free power that we currently possess technologically. There's also a generational shift in demand coming from electrification of major appliances and vehicles and artificial intelligence driving data center deployment. This demand is driving almost 10% year-over-year growth over the next decade. Additionally, another generational shift in supply is currently occurring due to the Russo-Ukrainian war, causing a major bifurcation in supply, where the Western countries are focusing on Western companies and the Eastern countries are focusing on Eastern countries. Now, from this, the industry does have competitors. Cameco is not a sole player. And of these competitors, there are 3 that are larger in net uranium produced, at least in 2021. Kazatomprom, Orano, and Uranium One. These 3 companies operate in Kazakhstan, France, and Russia, and Cameco was number 4 behind them in production in 2021. Now, it's key to note that although Cameco produced approximately 4,400 tons of uranium in 2021, the company has more than doubled its production to 10,500 tons in 2024, primarily through disciplined restarting of operations at those key facilities. Now, all of these competitors do have varying degrees of nuclear fuel cycle integration. Only really Orano maintains the full capability across the entire supply spectrum, but they all have varying degrees of production, conversion, enrichment capabilities, and final fuel fabrication. Now, the industry, and we're going to focus specifically on Cameco, is subject to a high degree of external forces due to the politically charged nature, environmentally charged nature, and just social challenge associated with nuclear power. Politically, there's strict regulations, geopolitical tension that we've been seeing around the world, and waste continues to remain a major political issue. But favorable shifts in policy are supporting this development. Economic, uranium prices, long-term contract prices have been rising. This is coming from that major demand we've been seeing. And market conditions are currently supporting current plant extensions and new builds, which is good for the future of the industry. Socially, major public support's been growing. We're at 61% in the United States. Cameco specifically focuses on community sentiment in local Canadian operation areas in northern Saskatchewan. But there is some pipeline stress due to major retirements and not good backfilling of personnel. Technologically, there's a lot of new technical developments that are coming that have been pushing both conversion services, production services, and eventual consumption in the uranium reactors. Environmentally, nuclear is a clean, firm power source. The waste disposal issue is not as much of an environmental issue as it is more of a political issue, but it still remains a challenge due to no long-term geological storage. And ESG performance is central to stakeholder alignment in the nuclear field and with Cameco. Legally, this is a challenging industry due to the potential for proliferation of nuclear material. Additionally, Cameco operates on a lot of indigenous land in northern Saskatchewan and has to continue to abide by those rules and regulations. Internally, the company has been performing strong financially in the recent years since the COVID-19 pandemic. There was a lull in demand in the 2010s due to low-cost uranium and the glut of natural gas, and an additional lull at the beginning of COVID-19 due to demand destruction, but the company has recently seen a massive change in the demand of that uranium product. Performance financially, as shown here, has recovered dramatically. The company continues to be an ESG leader and maintain positive community relationships in all of the places that it operates. It has excellent mining assets and fantastic safety records at those facilities. But, again, continues to lack the enrichment capabilities and cannot fully vertically integrate the supply chain. From a SWOT analysis perspective, strengths, long-term uranium supply contracts, there's good predictable revenue for the company. The company has some of the highest grade deposits of uranium in the world. It's a Western company and geopolitically located to take advantage of that bifurcation. And it recently integrated with Westinghouse, improving the total vertical integration at the company. On a weaknesses side, companies exposed to uranium price volatility that had challenges in the 2010s and during COVID. Recent merger and acquisition activity, specifically Westinghouse, and site restarts have increased financial risk for the company. And revenue is really focused specifically on mining, so there's less diversification in the company. There's clear opportunities in this business, huge growth in demand, SMR technology, and there is no longer really weapons-grade uranium supplies coming from Russia that provided the previous supply for the Western markets. It's now going to have to rely on that organic demand from those plants and the actual production. Some major threats, regulations are always a challenge in this industry, and poor performance will increase operating costs for those regulations. Kazakhstan has always been a major player in this market and could challenge Cameco's position. And last but definitely not least, a nuclear incident, something like Fukushima, Chernobyl, or 3 Mile Island, could quickly reverse public sentiment from the gaining ground that we have been seeing. So, given all these external and internal analysis, the nuclear industry is strong, growing, and requires an expansion of fuel cycle capabilities. All this new technology is creating demand for higher enrichments and new fuel products like TRISO. Cameco, while being a mature company with key competitive advantages across the uranium production market, does not have enrichment or TRISO manufacturing capability. This brings us to our strategic issue, the missing link in this value chain, the inability to enrich and create TRISO fuel. The demand for fuel coming from small modular reactors and the surge from the global marketplace requires integrated supply chain to be competitive. Based on this, there's three key proposals. Either a strategic alliance with Urenco, which has a fast implementation timeline and relatively low cost, but would prevent revenue actualization. A partial acquisition of a smaller company at number 2, which would still get that quicker access to markets, but costly and would be a weird company structure. Or building internal enrichment facilities, which has a super high investment and a long lead time, but would still give the company the total vertical integration that it's looking for. Based on these three proposals, recommendation is to form a strategic alliance with a company like Urenco, building on the Bulgarian alliance that was recently founded in 2023. This will give the company access to that enrichment capability and expand its value chain for its customers. Long term, the company should continue to fund TRISO manufacturing capabilities, given that real deployment of non-light water reactor SMRs is not really expected to occur until the mid-2030s. It's not an immediate concern, but it is something that will be required to be competitive into the future. And given all of these, the company should continue to invest in research and development and advanced enrichment capabilities, such as laser diffusion enrichment, to ensure it is competitive into the future, regardless of its ability to short-term plan for these enrichment services. Implementation of this will follow a 6-step plan over the next 18 to 24 months, from signing an agreement and announcing, setting up the governance for this specific setup in this partnership, market and regulatory review to ensure there's compliance, integrated supply chain and enterprise resource planning for both companies, pilot the system with some key customers to see its performance and fix any bugs, and then formally launch the framework to allow the market to buy the product. Overall, Cameco is a well-positioned company to capture all of this new market share and demand coming from the nuclear industry, but it must add enrichment capability. An alliance with Urenco, that strategy provides speed, value, and currently aligns with the business strategy of disciplined growth. Long term, the company growth will be secured through the integration of these services with the remainder of the fuel cycle capabilities, while still innovating to produce better products that align with the market. Thank you.